My name is Maren. I'm 35 years old, and the last time my sister laughed at me in front of our family, my 8-year-old son asked one question that made every glass on that patio feel too loud. It was my sister Brielle's baby shower, lavender balloons, white roses, a dessert table with tiny gold spoons, 35 guests dressed like they were attending a magazine shoot instead of a backyard party. Brielle sat in the center of it all, one hand resting on her belly, the other showing off a diamond bracelet her husband had given her that morning. She looked across the room at me and smiled. Not the soft kind, the kind people use when they already know where they're going to cut. Then she said, loud enough for every woman in the room to hear, "At least my baby has a dad." Some people laughed. Some looked down. My mother took a slow sip of tea and said nothing. And then my son, Owen, stood up from the little folding chair they had pushed beside the sliding door. He looked at my sister, then at her husband, then back at her. And he asked one question. The whole patio went silent so fast I heard the ice machine click inside the kitchen. But that moment didn't start at the shower. It started 41 days earlier in a school parking lot with a blue pickup truck, a child's backpack, and a man who thought nobody was paying attention. Welcome back to quiet revenge stories, where the people they underestimate are usually the ones holding the truth. If you've ever been treated like the family mistake while everyone else's mess was hidden behind flowers and filtered photos, this one is going to stay with you. 8 years ago, I became the woman my family whispered about. Not because I failed, because I stayed alive after being left. My husband, Caleb, walked out when Owen was 7 months old. He didn't pack with anger. He didn't scream. He simply removed his clothes from our closet while I was at the pediatrician, left his key under the doormat, and sent one text. "I need a different life." That was it. A different life. As if Owen and I were a jacket he'd outgrown. For 2 years after that, I worked double shifts at a pharmacy, finished nursing school online, and learned how to stretch one roasted chicken across 4 dinners. I studied with Owen asleep against my leg, his baby bottle cooling beside my textbook. I cried in the shower because it was the only place he couldn't hear me. By 31, I was a registered nurse. By 35, I was the lead intake coordinator at a women's clinic, had a small townhouse, a car that started every morning, and a son who read chapter books 2 grades above his level. None of that counted in my family. To them, I was still abandoned, still pitied, still proof that love could choose someone else and leave you holding the diaper bag. My mother, Vivian, had 2 daughters. Brielle was the polished one. I was the practical one. That was how she said it when she was being kind. When she wasn't, she said Brielle had chosen stability, and I had chosen struggle. Chosen. As if I had stood in front of a menu and ordered betrayal with extra bills on the side. Brielle married Graham when she was 26. He sold luxury windows to custom home builders, wore pressed shirts even on Saturdays, and called my mother Mrs. V with a grin that made her laugh like a teenager. He brought flowers. He carried grocery bags. He knew exactly when to touch Brielle's lower back in photos. My family adored him. They treated Graham like a certificate Brielle had earned for doing life correctly. At every holiday, his name came up before mine did. Graham got another bonus. Graham is taking Brielle to Cape May. Graham says the market is changing. Graham thinks you should put Owen in a better school, Maren. Graham thought a lot of things for a man who had never once remembered Owen's birthday. Brielle announced her pregnancy in March at my mother's dining table. She handed out little envelopes with ultrasound photos inside. Everyone cried. My mother pressed the picture to her chest like a prayer card. Then she looked at me, not cruelly, almost worse, softly. You see, Maren, things happen when you build the right foundation. I smiled because Owen was sitting beside me, swinging his legs under the table. I smiled because I had learned that defending myself in that house only gave them a longer evening. Brielle rubbed her belly and said, "I just feel grateful this baby is coming into a complete home." Complete. That word followed me for months. It sat in the back seat when I drove to work. It stood at the sink while I washed dishes. It lay beside me at night after Owen fell asleep, reminding me that some people can turn your survival into their superiority. The shower planning began 5 weeks later. My mother called me on a Tuesday morning while I was packing Owen's lunch. "We're doing Brielle's shower at the club garden room," she said. "I'll need you early. Not can you come? Not would you help? Just need. What time?" I asked. 8. The centerpieces have to be assembled, and the florist is short-staffed. Is Owen invited? There was a pause long enough for me to put the sandwich knife down. "Well," she said, "it's mostly ladies. He's her nephew." "I know that. Don't be dramatic. Just keep him occupied. Keep him occupied. My son was always something to manage, something to place in a corner, something to explain away." I said, "Okay," because that was what I did. I said, "Okay," then stood in my kitchen holding the phone after she hung up, wondering how many years a woman can swallow the same insult before it starts tasting normal. The first strange thing happened 41 days before the shower. Owen's school had early dismissal. I was supposed to pick him up, but a patient emergency kept me at the clinic. I called my mother, but she didn't answer. I called Brielle. No answer. Then Graham called me back. "I'm near the school," he said. "I can grab him." I hesitated. Graham had never offered to help with Owen before, not once in 8 years. But Owen was excited when I called the school office to tell them. "Uncle Graham is getting me?" he said. He sounded so happy I hated myself for being suspicious. They were gone almost 3 hours. When Graham dropped him off, Owen came inside holding a paper airplane made from thick blue paper. "Uncle Graham took me to the park," he said. That was nice. And then to a house? I looked up from the counter. "What house?" Owen shrugged, digging through his backpack. "A lady's house. She gave me lemonade." My hand stopped moving. "What lady?" "I think her name was Miss Tessa." I kept my voice soft. "Was Aunt Brielle there?" "No." Uncle Graham said it was a work thing. A work thing. With lemonade. From a woman I had never heard of. I told myself not to build a story out of one sentence from a child. Children confuse things. Adults visit clients. People have houses. Lemonade exists. Then Owen pulled a small plastic dinosaur from his pocket. "Her little girl gave me this. She said I could keep it because she had 2. "Her little girl?" "Yeah, Willa. She's 4. She said Uncle Graham makes better pancakes than her mom." The room shifted around me. Not dramatically. Not like in movies. Just slightly. Like a picture frame going crooked on the wall. I looked at that tiny green dinosaur in Owen's palm and felt something cold move through my chest. A 4-year-old named Willa. A woman named Tessa. A house. And Graham making pancakes. I asked Owen if he knew where the house was. He shook his head. But the next morning, when I cleaned spilled cereal dust out of his backpack, I found a sticker stuck to the inside pocket. It was from a children's dental office. Bright Smile Kids. Maple Ridge. Maple Ridge was 35 minutes away. Graham's company territory was west. Maple Ridge was east. I put the sticker in my junk drawer and told myself to forget it. For 3 days, I almost did. Then Brielle posted a photo. Her and Graham in the nursery, standing beside a white crib, his hand on her belly. Her caption said, "Our little miracle is already so loved." I stared at the word miracle longer than I should have. Then I looked at the green dinosaur sitting on Owen's desk, and I started paying attention. I am not a detective. I am a nurse. But nurses notice what people try to hide. We notice when a woman says she fell, but the bruise is shaped like fingers. We notice when a husband answers every question for his wife. We notice when a patient laughs too loudly and grips the exam table with white knuckles. You learn to see the space between what people say and what their bodies admit. Graham's body had been admitting things for months. The phone he always turned face down. The client dinners that happened every Thursday. The way he smelled like vanilla lotion when Brielle wore rose perfume. The way he stepped outside to take calls and came back smiling too quickly. Before the dinosaur, those things were just details. After the dinosaur, they were a pattern. 4 weeks before the shower, Graham walked into the clinic where I worked. Not as a patient, as a husband. But not Brielle's husband. I was at the front desk reviewing intake forms when I saw him through the glass doors. Graham, pressed shirt, brown belt, wedding ring, holding the hand of a little girl with curly hair and purple sneakers. Beside him was a woman with dark red hair pulled into a loose bun. She had one hand on the little girl's shoulder and the other resting protectively over a folder of paperwork. I froze. Graham didn't see me at first. He was too busy kneeling to zip the little girl's jacket. "Daddy's got it, Willa," he said. Daddy. One word. Soft. Ordinary. Devastating. The little girl giggled and touched his face. "After doctor? Pancakes?" Graham smiled. "If Mommy says yes." The woman rolled her eyes, tired but affectionate. "We are not doing pancakes every time. Graham. Graham. Not Mr. Client, not uncle, not work friend. Graham." My sister's husband stood in the clinic lobby with a woman named Tessa and a 4-year-old who called him Daddy. I turned before he looked up. I walked into the supply room and stood between boxes of gloves until my breathing became something I could control. For 8 years, my family had made me the cautionary tale, the abandoned one, the woman without a husband. And all that time, Brielle's perfect marriage had a second address, a second woman, a second child, and Thursday night pancakes. I could have exposed him that day. I could have stepped out and said his name loud enough for every nurse at reception to hear. I didn't, because truth is heavy. And once you hand it to someone, you don't get to decide where it lands. That night, after Owen went to sleep, I searched the clinic system. Not medical records. I would never cross that line. But appointment notes visible to intake had emergency contacts and billing names. Tessa Vale. Patient guardian. Emergency contact, Graham Ellis. Relationship, father. Father. My hands went numb. I closed the screen. I didn't print anything. I didn't screenshot anything. I didn't take what I wasn't allowed to take. But I didn't need to. I had seen him. I had heard Willa call him Daddy, and I had watched his face answer before he ever opened his mouth. 3 weeks before the shower, my mother called again. "Brielle wants the gift table to feel elegant," she said. "So please don't bring anything homemade unless it looks professional." I was standing in the yarn aisle at the craft store, a basket on my arm. soft cream yarn inside. I had been planning to crochet a baby blanket, not because Brielle deserved it, because the baby did. What do you mean by professional? I asked. You know what I mean, Maren. Sometimes your gifts look practical. Practical. There was that word again, the nice version of less. I looked down at the yarn. It was the color of warm milk, soft, gentle, innocent. I already bought the supplies, I said. My mother sighed. Then maybe tuck a gift card in the bag too. Something from the registry. I almost laughed. My electricity bill was due in 5 days. I bought the yarn anyway. For the next 2 weeks, I crocheted after Owen slept. Loop after loop, row after row. The blanket grew slowly across my lap while the house settled around me. Every stitch carried something I did not say. I hope this baby is loved better than we loved each other. I hope Brielle never feels the floor disappear under her. I hope my mother learns that a woman is not complete because a man stands beside her. The edges were uneven. One corner curled. I redid it twice. Owen watched me finish the border the night before the shower. He sat on the couch in dinosaur pajamas, his chin on his knees. Aunt Brielle will like it, he said. I hope so. If she doesn't, can we keep it? That made me smile. No, baby. It's for the baby. He nodded, then looked at me with the serious eyes he gets when his mind is busy. Mom? Yeah? Is Uncle Graham Willa's dad too? The crochet hook slipped from my fingers. I didn't answer fast enough. Owen looked down. He said not to talk about it, but Willa called him Daddy. And he didn't say no. There are moments in motherhood when you realize your child has been carrying something too big for his hands. Not because he understands the whole shape of it, because he understands enough to know the adults are lying. I sat beside him. Did Uncle Graham tell you not to tell me? He said grown-up things are complicated. I closed my eyes. Grown-up things. That phrase adults use when they want children to carry secrets without asking questions. I touched Owen's hair. You never have to keep a secret that makes your stomach feel weird. Not from me. He leaned into me. Is Aunt Brielle going to be sad? Yes, I said. Maybe. Are we going to tell her? I looked at the folded blanket on the coffee table, the gift I had made for a baby whose father had already built another life somewhere else. Not at the shower, I said. After. Quietly. Just her and me. That was the plan. I would not embarrass my pregnant sister in front of 35 people. I would not turn a baby shower into a courtroom. I would not become the bitter single mother Graham would surely accuse me of being. I would wait. I would take Brielle to breakfast on Monday. I would tell her gently. I would say, I saw Graham with Tessa and Willa. I heard the little girl call him Daddy. You need to ask him the truth. I would help her if she wanted help. And if she hated me for telling her, I would survive that too. I had survived worse. The morning of the shower, Owen wore a pale blue shirt and the tiny navy blazer he hated. I look like a mayor, he said. You look handsome. I don't want people to laugh at you today. I stopped brushing lint from his sleeve. Who said people are going to laugh? He shrugged. Nobody. They just do sometimes. 8 years old. Already fluent in family weather. The shower was held at the garden room of a private club Brielle loved. Glass walls looked out over trimmed hedges and a fountain that made soft, expensive sounds. Every table had lavender napkins folded like flowers. There were name cards, custom cookies, and a photo wall with Brielle and Graham smiling under silver letters that said Baby Ellis. My mother put Owen at a small side table near the gift bags. He'll be happier over there, she said. No, I said. She blinked. It was such a small word, one syllable. But in my family, from me, it sounded almost violent. He'll sit with me. Her mouth tightened, but guests were arriving, so she smiled the smile she uses when she wants to look kind in public. Of course. Brielle floated through the room in a lavender dress, glowing and perfect. Graham stayed close to her, one hand on her back, the other holding his phone like it might bite him. He saw me near the gift table. For half a second, his smile slipped. Then he recovered. "Maren," he said, "good to see you." I looked at him, not angry, not afraid, just looking. Graham. That was all. But he knew. Men like Graham always know when the room has changed temperature. I placed my gift on the table. The cream blanket wrapped in tissue. A small card taped to the top. For baby Ellis. May you always be warm. Brielle opened gifts after lunch. A stroller from Graham's parents. A bottle warmer from my mother. A designer diaper bag from her best friend. Every gift was held up, admired, photographed. Then she reached mine. She pulled back the tissue paper and lifted the blanket. For 1 second, her face softened. Just one. Then she remembered who had given it to her. "Oh," she said. "Maren made something." A few women smiled politely. Brielle turned the blanket over, touching the uneven corner. "That's sweet. Very handmade." She said handmade the way some people say expired. My mother looked away. Owen's jaw tightened. I put my hand over his under the table. "It's okay," I whispered. But it wasn't. Not because of the blanket. Because my son was watching another adult teach him that love only counts when it comes wrapped in money. The game started after dessert. Guess the baby food. Write advice for the parents. Name that lullaby. Everyone laughed. Everyone clapped. Graham took pictures. Brielle glowed under the attention. Then my mother stood for the toast. She tapped a spoon against her glass. The room went quiet. "To my beautiful Brielle," she said, voice warm and polished. "You have given this family so much joy. And Graham, you have given my daughter something every mother prays for her child to have. Security, partnership, a complete home." There it was again, complete. The word moved through the room and found me like it had my address. My mother continued. "This baby is already blessed. 2 loving parents, a stable house, a family built the right way. Built the right way." I felt Owen move beside me, his shoulder pressed against my arm. Brielle dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Graham kissed her temple. The guests lifted their glasses. To Brielle and Graham, I lifted mine too, because sometimes dignity looks exactly like obedience from a distance. But inside, something was getting tired. Not angry. Tired. Tired of being measured against a lie. The line came during the advice cards. Brielle's best friend, Sloane, was reading them aloud. "Sleep when the baby sleeps." Everyone laughed. "Take all the pictures." A few women sighed. "Trust your husband. He knows more than you think." That one got a playful cheer. Graham smiled, but his eyes moved to the exit. Then Sloane looked at Brielle. "What are you most excited for?" Brielle placed both hands on her belly. For a moment, I thought she might say something real. A first cry, tiny fingers, the smell of a newborn's head. Instead, she looked straight at me and smiled. I'm excited that my child won't have to wonder where their father is. The room dipped into a strange silence, the kind where everyone knows a line has been crossed but waits to see if the powerful person will call it a joke. Brielle tilted her head. At least my baby has a dad. The laughter came in pieces. A sharp laugh from Sloane, a covered mouth from someone near the dessert table, a low chuckle from Graham's cousin, then more. Enough. Enough to turn the room into a place I no longer wanted my son to remember. My mother didn't stop it. She didn't say, "That's enough." She didn't say, "Owen is sitting right there." She just looked into her teacup like the answer might be floating at the bottom. Owen's hand found mine. His fingers were cold. I had heard worse. That's the part people never understand. When a family humiliates you for years, one sentence rarely surprises you. But watching your child hear it? That is different. That makes the room smaller. That makes your chest feel like a locked door. I stood slowly. I was going to leave. No speech. No scene. No revenge. Just my son, my purse, and the last piece of self-respect I still controlled. Then my mother spoke. "Maren, don't be sensitive. Brielle is emotional. It's her day. Her day." As if that made cruelty decorative. Owen pulled his hand from mine. He stood before I could stop him. Small navy blazer, hair combed too flat, eyes too serious for 8 years old. He looked at Brielle, then at Graham, then at the silver letters on the wall that said Baby Ellis. His voice was quiet, not dramatic, not angry, just confused. "Aunt Brielle," he asked, "if Uncle Graham is only your baby's dad, why does Willa call him Daddy too?" The room did not gasp. A gasp would have been easier. The room simply stopped. Forks paused halfway to plates. The fountain outside kept running. Somewhere near the kitchen, a server dropped something metal, and the sound cracked through the silence like a warning. Brielle blinked. "What?" Owen swallowed. "Willa. The little girl at Miss Tessa's house. She calls Uncle Graham Daddy." Graham's face changed. Not completely. Just enough. The color left his mouth first. Then his cheeks. Then whatever performance he had been holding in place slipped behind his eyes. Brielle turned toward him. Slowly. Like her body already knew what her mind was refusing to hear. "Graham?" He laughed once. It was a terrible sound. Too loud. Too empty. "Maren," he said, looking at me instead of his wife. "What did you tell him? I didn't move. I didn't tell him anything. You brought your kid here to start drama?" Owen flinched. That was the moment my silence ended. I stepped in front of my son. "Don't speak to him like that." Graham pointed at me. "There it is. Bitter. Jealous. You couldn't stand seeing Brielle happy, so you filled your son's head with garbage." Brielle looked at me, eyes wide and wet. "Maren, what is he talking about?" I wanted to say it gently. I had planned to say it gently, over coffee, with napkins, with time, not under lavender balloons while a cake with her baby's name sat untouched 6 feet away. But Graham had chosen the room, so I chose the truth. "I saw him at the clinic," I said, "with Tessa and Willa." Graham's jaw tightened. "Careful." I looked at him. "No, you be careful, because my son is not your shield." The room stayed frozen. Even my mother did not speak. I turned back to Brielle. "I didn't want you to find out here. I was going to talk to you Monday. Privately. I saw Graham with a woman named Tessa. Her daughter called him Daddy. Owen had already been to their house because Graham took him there and told him grown-up things are complicated. Brielle's hand went to the back of a chair, not for drama, for balance. "How old is she?" she asked. Her voice was barely there. Owen answered before I could. 4. 4. One number. One tiny hammer. Brielle and Graham had been married 5 years. The math did itself around the room. You could see it happen. Women looked at their laps. Sloane's mouth opened and closed. Graham's cousin set down his drink. My mother's face folded into something I had never seen before. Not sadness, not guilt. Recognition. The terrible recognition of a woman realizing she had spent years praising a house without checking the foundation. Brielle looked at Graham. "Is she yours?" Graham rubbed his forehead. "Brielle, this is not the place." That was his mistake. Because innocent men say no. Guilty men talk about location. Brielle gave a small nod, like something inside her had clicked into place. "Is she yours?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The lavender room, the silver letters, the dessert table, the perfect dress, the perfect marriage, the perfect foundation my mother had toasted 10 minutes earlier. All of it seemed to shrink around that silence. Then Graham reached for his keys. Brielle noticed. "So you're leaving?" "I need air." "No," she said. "You need courage." He looked at the door, then at the guests, then at me. For 1 second, I saw hatred there. Not because I had lied, because I had stopped helping him hide. He walked out. The door closed softly behind him. A soft exit for a loud betrayal. Brielle sank into the nearest chair. Her hands covered her belly. No one clapped now. No one laughed. The same people who had laughed at my son's fatherlessness sat perfectly still while my sister's perfect family broke apart in real time. My mother stood. "Maren," she said, and somehow my name still sounded like an accusation. I looked at her. "If your next sentence is about how I ruined this, don't say it." Her mouth shut. That was new. Brielle looked up at me. "You knew?" "Yes." "And you came here anyway?" "I came here with a blanket," I said. "Not a weapon." Her eyes moved to the gift table. The cream blanket sat half folded beside a stack of expensive boxes. "I was going to tell you privately." She laughed once, but it broke before it became sound. "After I laughed at you?" I didn't answer, because yes, even after everything, I had still planned to protect her from public shame. That is the part nobody sees about women like me. We are called bitter while swallowing mercy by the handful. Owen pressed against my side. "Mom, did I do bad?" The room heard him. Every adult in that room heard the child they had forgotten was listening. I knelt in front of him. "No, baby. You told the truth because people were being unkind. That is not bad." His eyes filled. "I didn't want them to laugh at you." "I know." I pulled him close. And for the first time that day, I did not care who watched. Brielle started crying then. Not pretty crying, not baby shower tears, real crying, the kind that folds a person forward. Sloane went to her. My mother went to her. A few guests stood awkwardly, reaching for purses, whispering excuses. I picked up my bag. Then I walked to the gift table and took the blanket. My mother looked startled. "Maren, what are you doing?" "I'm taking it home." "But it's for the baby." I held the folded cream yarn against my chest. When Brielle is ready to receive love without making it feel small, I'll bring it back. Nobody argued. Not one person. Owen and I walked out past the lavender balloons, past the silver letters, past the cake nobody had cut. In the parking lot, the afternoon sun was bright and ordinary. That felt unfair somehow. The world should look different after something breaks. But it rarely does. Owen climbed into the car and stared out the window. Is Aunt Brielle going to hate me? I buckled my seatbelt. She might be upset for a while. But I didn't lie. No, I said. You didn't. He nodded slowly. Then why do grown-ups get mad when kids tell the truth? I looked through the windshield at the club doors. Because grown-ups build entire lives around what children are too honest to protect. But I didn't say that. I just said, because sometimes truth arrives before people are ready. Graham did not come home that night, or the next. 3 days later, Brielle called me. Her voice sounded empty, not calm, empty. Tessa messaged me, she said. She thought I knew. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Women like Tessa are lied to differently, but they are lied to all the same. She said Willa is 4, Brielle whispered. 4, Maren. I know. She calls him Daddy. I know. There was a long silence. Then Brielle said the words I never expected from her. I'm sorry. I sat down at my kitchen table. Owen was in his room building a spaceship from blocks, humming to himself like he hadn't changed 3 families with one sentence. For what? I asked. For laughing, she said. For saying that. For every time I made your life sound incomplete because mine looked easier. I looked at the cream blanket folded on the chair beside me. You hurt my son. I know. You hurt me in front of him. I know. That was the first honest conversation we had ever had. Not perfect, not healed, but honest. A week later, Brielle came to my townhouse. No makeup, hair in a loose bun, belly round beneath a plain gray dress. She stood on my porch, holding a folder and looking younger than she had in years. I don't know what to do, she said. I let her in. Because revenge is not always closing the door. Sometimes revenge is becoming the kind of woman they should have respected before they needed you. I helped her organize bank statements, insurance documents, and property records. I gave her the name of a lawyer from the clinic's referral list. I showed her how to change passwords, separate accounts, and ask the questions women are taught to feel guilty for asking. She cried twice. I made tea both times. My mother called once. I hope you're happy, she said. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was exactly what I expected. No, Mom, I said. I'm not happy. I'm free. She didn't know what to do with that. People who control you with shame don't understand freedom when it speaks calmly. 2 weeks before Brielle's due date, I brought the blanket back. She opened the box at her kitchen table. Her fingers moved over the uneven corner. This time she didn't smirk. She cried. It's beautiful, she said. And maybe she meant the blanket. Maybe she meant the fact that I came back. Owen met the baby 3 months later. A little girl named Cora. He held her like she was made of glass. Brielle watched from the couch, tired and softer than I had ever seen her. She has a family, Owen said. Brielle looked at me. Yes, she said. She does. Not complete because a man was in the photo. Not complete because the story looked clean. Complete because nobody in that room had to lie to be loved. That night, Owen and I ate grilled cheese at our kitchen counter. He had ketchup on his sleeve and one sock missing. The blanket story was behind us, but not gone. Stories like that don't disappear. They become lines inside you. Boundaries. Warnings. Proof. "Mom?" he asked. "Yeah? Are we complete?" I looked at my son, the boy who had sat through years of whispers, the boy who had heard adults laugh and still chose truth, the boy who thought one honest question was stronger than 35 fake smiles. "Yes," I said, "we've always been complete." And I meant it. So if your family ever used your pain as proof that they were better than you, remember this. Sometimes the perfect people are just better at decorating their lies. And sometimes the quiet child in the corner is the only one brave enough to ask the question that brings the whole room back to truth.